The legal battles for indigenous rights are ongoing struggles to protect the rights of the indigenous peoples of the world. These battles are being fought in courts around the world, including the United States, Canada, and Australia. Indigenous peoples are those who have occupied a particular geographic area for a long period of time and who have shared cultural, linguistic, and historical ties to that region. In many places, indigenous peoples are considered to be part of a minority population and are often subject to discrimination and oppression. Legal battles for indigenous rights focus on protecting the rights of indigenous peoples to land, resources, and self-determination. In the United States, for example, indigenous peoples have won some significant victories in recent years, such as the passage of the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, which established the rights of Native Americans to reclaim the remains of their ancestors. Other legal battles have centered on the right of indigenous peoples to access natural resources, such as water and timber, as well as the right to be consulted on decisions that affect their traditional land. In Canada, the legal battles for indigenous rights have been focused on the recognition of indigenous rights under the Canadian Constitution as part of the country's constitutional framework. In 2017, the Canadian government adopted the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which recognizes the rights of indigenous peoples to their land and resources, as well as their right to self-determination. This declaration has been used as a basis for the recognition of indigenous rights in Canada, and for the negotiation of treaties between the indigenous peoples and the Canadian government. In Australia, the legal battles for indigenous rights have centred on the recognition of indigenous land rights. Indigenous Australians have long struggled to have their traditional land rights recognised and respected by the Australian government. In 1992, the Native Title Act was passed, which recognised the rights of Indigenous Australians to their traditional lands. This has been followed by a series of court cases in which Indigenous Australians have successfully argued that their traditional land rights are protected under the Act, no matter where they are being fought. Legal battles for Indigenous rights are a crucial part of protecting the rights of the indigenous peoples of the world. These battles are often long and difficult, but they are a vital part of securing the rights of those who have been oppressed for so long. As more countries recognize the rights of indigenous peoples, the legal battles for indigenous rights will continue to be an important part of the struggle for justice and equality.